Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio with Nancy and Lisa. Every third Thursday, we get to chat with Lea Brovedani, who is known as the Trust Architect. She's a speaker, a workshop facilitator on trust, and she's regarded as one of the top thought leaders of trust by the organization called Trust Across America. She's also the author of Trust Me, Restore Belief and Confidence in an Uncertain World, and the book Trusted, Secret Lessons from an Inspired Leader. So I encourage you to go to her website, thetrustarchitect.biz. She's on our show every third Thursday, like I said. And the interesting thing is the world of trust and leadership has also guided her to become a certified death doula. So we're going to talk about fear today, because fear is all around us. We get fearful when it's election time. There's fear now with, major storms across the country, around the world. There's fear with layoffs in business, but fear, when it comes right down to the root core of it, we can get past that. And when we think about the passing of someone, we're scared for ourselves because we're going to lose someone we love. But also, if you're in the shoes knowing that it's your time to go to your next step, that can be scary too. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit about fear in personal and professional lives, and also in leadership. So Welcome back to the show, Lea. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you and Nancy, Lisa and Nancy. I should say because I'm looking at Lisa and I realized the way the screen's set up, I can see both of you, which is great.
Isn't that cool? That's cool.
We're in the ocean.
And I can see you, Nancy. I can see Bobby. I can see Billy.
It's romper room.
I know, but it's good to see you. And hey, we're in Georgia right now, recording this while we're in Georgia, and you're in Georgia, so that's pretty cool. You're not too far from us, but
and we got to see each other when you were in Savannah, which was just a real treat.
And we got to have margaritas.
We did.
Yes, we did. Yeah, but not too many. We were good though. But I'm excited about this topic of fear because I think that is a root cause of so many things for people to not move forward in their life, professionally, personally, maybe too scared to, take that leap with someone they loved in a relationship. And then, yes, when it comes to death. So I think it's interesting you going into the world of becoming a death doula, because that really is the epitome of trust, is being there for someone on their next journey. So I think it's an interesting conversation we're going to have, as we always do, but I want to give people your website for that too, which is souljourneydoula.com, and that's Doula. I had to learn how to spell that just recently because I just, I didn't know, but now I know. So you've already taught me something how to spell doula.
One of the things when we first started, and I think it's good to revisit, is that my definition of trust is the ability to be vulnerable based upon positive expectations about someone else's or another company's behavior. So that positive expectations. And if you're fearful, you don't have those positive expectations. So people have said, well, the opposite of trust is distrust. And I said, it's really not. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes the opposite of trust is fear, because if you are fearful about another person's behavior, you're not fully trusting. And a lot of times, sorry, what's that, Nance?
I was going to say, but isn't it like you down deep, you don't trust yourself to handle what you think might happen?
Oh, absolutely. At the heart of trust is your ability to trust your own judgment and your own ability to trust. Because if I don't trust myself, then how can I trust my judgment on whether or not I can trust other people? And you meet those people who don't trust anybody. And at the heart of it is that they don't really trust their own ability to be able to figure out who is trustworthy and who isn't.
It's interesting to me because when you look at leadership, right, and trust is a big part of leadership, as we always talk about. And right now you're looking at so many layoffs happening in major companies. And we're really in this shift. And when there's change like that, change and fear go hand in hand, right? Do I
Yes.
trust myself to be able to go get another job? And then as a leader, are you already, maybe everything's fine in the company, but as a leader, are you invoking fear into your employees? Are you using that in your team as a motivator? So if you run on fear and using fear, like if you don't do this, you're going to get fired. Well, that's not exciting. You didn't motivate me. Well, now I'll watch what I want to say. Here we go again. But if you use, a different technique, then people are going to be excited to do something, right? It goes down to what's in your heart and soul. But if you're using fear as a way to get things done,
That never works.
I think
and what
that is
happens is
weird.
if you've got those employees, worse than having someone quit is having someone quit and still be working. And by that, I mean, if you've got someone who in their mind have said, I'm out of here, but I'm going to stay and catch a paycheck until I've got something else.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
not getting the best of them. In fact, you may be getting sabotaged by them without realizing it. And
Oh
then,
yeah,
so
stealing customers and all kinds of things, and
Yeah.
All
and
sorts
being
of stuff.
cancerous. That will breed cancer within the whole team.
Oh, and the
Maybe everyone
coffee
will
room
walk.
the coffee room is the best place for people like that, where they spread that venom.
yeah,
Or they get a big, there's people I know in life where suddenly they've left, a position that we're in shock, like what? And then you'll find out that all the other people you were working with, and they all walked. And when you
Yeah,
hear
at the
that,
same time.
something
Something's up.
happened. And I hate to say it, but you actually hear a lot of that, yes, in
Mhm.
big corporations, but in nonprofits, I see that a lot happening,
Oh,
which is
really?
weird.
okay.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not,
weird.
I haven't done as much work with nonprofits. So
Yeah. Well, it is
Well,
still a
it-
business,
yeah,
it is.
absolutely. Yeah.
But it's a business with, oh, how can I say it? Like here we are, we're doing good, right? And that means that you should be nice people, but we're still just people. And so there's a conflict.
Yes.
Like what you would do in a normal business, like business is known to be cutthroat. So it's okay if you're cutthroat, but when you work for a nonprofit, it's not okay. So you have to change your personality sometimes depending on
Or
how,
hide, it'd be very duplicitous. Yeah.
yeah. So they get a little,
We're at a condo. I'm living in Savannah right now, and I've never had experience with HOA before. And what we're seeing
Ooh.
is that, people do this and they volunteer. And what my observation is, the people who have volunteered are doing the best that they can. And there was one person in the whole complex who started introducing how we should be fearful of this one person that they, and she would just insert all kind of innuendo. This person is doing this, and this person is doing this, and your money is going to be going away. And she really introduced fear into the whole, how this other person operated, until people mistrusted him, and one person was able to get two good people's reputation. I won't say it ruined it, because there's enough people who know them, but was enough to get them to quit and just leave the position. So, one of the people said that, there's this whole thing, it takes a lifetime to build trust and only a moment for it to be destroyed. I don't agree with that. And most of the people in trust don't. But what is true is that it can take a lifetime to build up a reputation. And a minute.
Sure.
And what one of the fellows had said was, it takes months to build a house, but a good fire can destroy it in a couple of hours.
That's right.
And so, like, trust is built up over time. And if you really built up trust, then you can put out that fire. And you can, but you have to be willing to confront your own fear, and you have to be willing to be, I've had people who have said things about me. I think we all have. And you have to, I used to think, oh, well, everybody knows who I am and everybody knows my integrity. It's just not true. What you have to do is you have to communicate, and you have to be able to be willing to go out there and confront the rumors and talk and say, okay, here's what was said. Let's look at that and confront the person who is saying all the crap.
Yeah.
So,
Well, this is where gossip is
It's
really dangerous.
well,
yeah.
and that stems from two things. Insecurity is the first one. The person who starts it is always very insecure. And then there's the side where they've lost their reasoning and the ability to speak in a kind and thoughtful, educated way. They're now just doing pure emotion. And that's never
although
a
the
good
person that was
place.
destroying all these reputations, I didn't see them as insecure. I saw them as power hungry.
Oh,
For what
Yeah,
reason, I don't know.
but that's the same thing. It's the same thing, because power hungry means I need more, I need more, I need more. Why? You're
Oh,
scared
interesting.
yeah, I think
I
it's
can
the
see
same
that.
thing.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
that's
it's like
because,
I have
well, they have no real intent that is bigger than themselves, right? That's just that's almost an
and that's
addiction.
fear. It's fear.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you have something that you're doing at the core that, I remember a conversation we had with you priorly where we were talking about maybe you're doing a job that isn't like your dream job, but you need to do the job, but find something there that motivates you, that you're doing something to help somebody. Like we were talking about, maybe you're in real estate and we don't like real estate, but hey, you're helping maybe the first time person find their dream home. So,
Yeah.
and that's where, the power hungry don't get, well, no, there's, it goes with that ego thing too, and I think that's where overinflated egos come from, is that fear.
Yeah.
As
The
well.
thing
The
is,
fear
if you're going to build your ego on money, it will crash and burn.
Well, this
At some
person I think
point.
is also narcissistic. So,
yeah.
it's kind
Oh,
of
do you want a list
interesting.
of people? We could put it up. We'll start our own gossip. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Everything I just said we should
I
do.
like that word narcissistic. I like that guy who looks in the pond and goes, "Oh, I'm so handsome."
You're so
And I
vain.
just think it's really kind of funny. I mean, it's an age-old fable. He looks in the pond and he sees his reflection, and oh wow, look at me. And too bad somebody didn't just kick his backside and let him fall in.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hear Carly Simon singing forever now. You're so vain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the yacht song. It started yacht rock. But,
Yeah. Yacht
the
rock.
thing with this too is
Funny.
when you think about fear, when we look at our lives and go into the personal side, and maybe it's a job, like we were saying, that could I better really look at what I can do and understand. Sometimes I think we have to take stock of who we are. Like we have to sit down as individuals and not just have the crazy talk in our heads, because that's easy.
Yeah.
That's the negative, stuff, the monkey mind chatter, but really take stock of what you do have on a positive mode. What do we have? What can we
Yes,
do?
I agree. Yeah.
And I think that if we're worried about layoffs, if we're worried about change and, all these different things, it's better to start say, okay, what do I have? And what can I do? What am I able to do? And how far can I stretch myself to go further? So even if I'm at this level here, well, maybe I'm going to have to go learn something new and do something better. So doesn't that same thing apply to someone knowing it's, I'm on my way to my next space. I'm going to beam up now. It's coming, it's time. Because when someone is ready to pass on, there's also the fear is also on the family and the loved ones. And then there's the people that the narcissist, greedy people come out of the woodwork too. So it's like there's that weird
This is
thing that
true.
happens. And so when someone's ready to move on, they may not be ready, but they kind of have to take stock of,
Yeah.
you know,
And as a death doula or end of life doula, however they want to say, someone, I think when we were having the last conversation, you said, what's one word that would describe what you do? And I said, alive. Because until a person makes that journey, they are alive. And so I'm dealing with people who are alive, and they want to control how their passing is. And I worked with, when I was being certified, there's a process called best 3 months. And so you give the scenario that at this moment, the two of you are given a diagnosis that exactly where you are, you're not hit by a bus, it's exactly where you are, you're given the diagnosis that you have 3 months to live, and how do you want to live those 3 months? And so we go through 5 realms. So how do you mentally want to feel? How do you physically? How do you emotionally? How do you practically? Like, I'm missing one. Anyways, you go through all of the 5 domains. They're on the website, Soul Journey Doula. And we look at exactly how they want to spend that time. So a death doula helps them prepare for that, first of all. And then how do you want your physical environment? 95% of people say that they want to be at home in their bed, surrounded by their loved ones when they pass. And I think it's like less than 20% of people are at home. Most people are in a hospital or a hospice or a nursing home. So it's the same as if you were having a baby and you said, yeah, I want to have the baby at home. And someone said, well, what have you done to prepare for it? And they say, oh, nothing. Well, the baby's going to come anyways. You would look at them like they were crazy.
Say, can you clean your kitchen table off, please?
Oh.
So it's the same, like you want to make sure that the room is set up, that, if you need medication, that you've got someone. As a death doula, I don't administer any of the drugs for pain, for example. But what I can do is I can make sure that the person who administers it is there. Okay. I might not set up the bed, but I can make sure that we hire and make sure that you've got the proper bed if you need a special one. And if you want to be in front of the window, I can make sure that your bed is put in front of there. There's so many practical aspects. And then if there's, weird Uncle George who always says the inappropriate thing and you've never really liked him and he wants to come and cry by your bedside and you're going, heck no. I can very tactfully say, they're sleeping right now, or this isn't a good time, and redirect them so that those last moments are as peaceful as possible. So everything.
And you die outside if you wanted to be outside, like in a forest.
Absolutely. Make sure that you're taken outside. And then someone said spiritually, like if you want a priest there, if you want anything, I said, I want all of them. Like I want to cover all the bases. I would want a shaman and a Wiccan and a priest and a Buddhist. And like, I want them to all visit me and all bless me.
Gosh.
Only kind of joking. Wow. Yeah.
But that's a lot. That's a lot of people.
But doesn't that also come from a little bit of fear? Like, what if when on the other side? So how many people, how much of, when you go back to the fear, like, the other side of wherever we go, there's people who believe, oh, we're just in the dirt. That's it. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, we're done.
Yeah.
And, I don't really believe that. I get down the rabbit hole of watching these near life death experience things, these people coming up and talking about it. And nurses and doctors hear about it all the time and witness it. And even Dr. Jackie, the cardiologist, they see, and she's heard stories. And there's a 72-hour period when someone crosses. That's very interesting. And sometimes they don't go all the way. But when you're a death doula,
sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was going to say one of my colleagues, Hannah, was the death doula for a fellow who absolutely loved bears. And he had bear pictures on his walls. He kind of lived in a cabin that was out towards the edge of the woods. And so his family was all there. And when he passed, a black bear came up onto the deck and stood at the window and stood there for 5 minutes just looking in and then lumbered off. And she said they were laughing and crying and,
That's awesome.
Yeah. So there's.
You gave me goosebumps.
Yeah. I've talked, and when like everybody has an experience and it doesn't happen all the time. One of my really good friends is a hospice nurse. And so she's witnessed over 200 deaths.
Wow.
And she said that some of them have those kind of occurrences that are just so magical, but not everyone does. So it's not like every single time it happens. But, you know, like what you're taught and what I've been taught is prepare yourself for the
Heaven or
unexpected.
hell.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're going to burn in hell, or you're going to, and that kind of stuff that
I hate
you know, I
that.
even hear that in religions, and sorry, you know, everybody's got their
I
different
really
beliefs,
hate
but this
that.
whole thing, like you're going to burn in hell, like, you know, don't kiss the boy when you're, you know, underage, you're going to go to hell kind of thing. I think that has instilled fear in us in so many ways. That kind of teaching, I mean, so it goes down to emotional intelligence too, right? And when you think you're okay, we're going to pass now, there's a fear factor of, oh my God, you can't even take baggage with you. You can't even pack a suitcase. You know, you're not,
You don't need
you
one.
know, yeah. I mean, it's like, you're not having to worry about all of that, but then you want things set up for people. But at the same time, the fear of death is an extremely real thing. Like you can't
Mhm.
fight it. If it's coming, it's coming, and it's coming for all of us, you
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
But
but
not everybody is fearsome. Fearsome,
yeah, I
not
think
the wrong
there's
word,
something
is
changed.
fearful. Not everybody
Yeah.
is fearful. And hopefully,
Yeah.
as a death doula,
Mm.
what part of our work is bringing peace to people. And
Mm.
as much as possible, you know, you can't promise that someone is going to go saying, oh, this is lovely and everything. But what I have heard from enough people and what I experienced myself when I was with my dad was there was a huge amount of peace. And that there is just this, it's quite amazing that I was terrified of being with him when he died. And what I discovered was that it was actually quite beautiful and very peaceful, and you could feel this different presence in the room. And so what my hope is that you give that sense of peace and hopefulness to everyone who's passing, so that they don't go into it full of fear, that they
Right,
trust
because
that.
yeah, it's hard for people to see someone pass and move on. And the people that I know who've gone through that have all said actually it's quite beautiful, and there's a release kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there is a fear of seeing a body that is no longer part of this plane. You know, a dead
Yeah.
body freaks people out, and that's a scary thing. And it's because we also don't know how our reaction is going to be unless we try and train ourselves, or, you know, communicate, you know what I mean? So I think if we don't deal with things, that's when fear is the biggest issue.
You know, you've both had a lot of pets, and so we talked about
Mhm.
this kind of before we got on camera and on mic. We've talked about our pets that have gone, and
Mhm.
we held Athena, our last dog,
Mhm.
and we had two dogs. We had Athena and Booker, and we made sure that Booker was with us as well when Athena got her shot, because it was the right thing to do and it was time.
Mhm.
And he kind of, you know, went and sniffed her, and then there was probably a week or 2 weeks that he went to her spot where she usually would lie.
Mm.
And he would lie there, and you could tell that he was a little depressed. And then
Yeah.
he used to fight her for the toys. And when she died, I went up and I tried to give him one of her toys, and he would have nothing to do with it. He just looked at it and
Oh.
turned his head. It was like, that's hers. I'm not going to take it from her. So we had to throw them away. So animals instinctively know how to deal with a lot of it. And the other thing that I've learned is grief is like love, and both of them never end. And so you let people know that if this person, that's part of my work, is to work with the people who are left, is that you're going to grieve, and it's going to come up at unexpected times. But while the person is in the active dying phase, there are no rules. If you want to get up and lie next to them on the bed, get up and lie next to them on the bed. If you want to listen to a certain kind of music, put the music on. If you want to have different flowers in the room, have the flowers, like decorate the space. and make it a sacred place. We do a lot of work with essential oils if the person wants them, so that we do rituals and we can, bless this mind that has seen so many sights, and bless these eyes, and bless, we'll go through all kinds of rituals to make it easier for the person to realize that they have had a purpose and they've been here and it's okay to leave.
That's because they need closure too, not just their friends and family and loved ones.
Yeah.
I
And
think
bring the people involved so that they can be part of the ritual too.
I think that's the thing when you don't know, like if someone's missing and you never know if they've really, you need some kind of closure of something. When someone's, been missing or something, and you don't need, like, missing in action kind of thing, you always have that in the back of your head, or they're really here or they're not, there's that thing. But then there's also, an ex-boyfriend passed away. We were very, very close, but our lives were two different chalk and cheese. And when he passed away, it was very unbelievable, and it's still weird. Like, we could do a whole show just on weird stuff, on that kind of thing. Like, we just, we don't know if his wife killed him or not. But anyway, it sounds terrible. I didn't say that. No, it just was a very traumatic thing on how he passed. And it's weird because when someone's passed, then it was like, oh, the communication is back, we can talk, because we couldn't really talk once, but we were always really like family. He was like a son to Nancy, so it was a very interesting thing. I think things change for people. It's like, okay, you're free now we can all, talk. We can talk now. You're somewhere else, but we can talk. You know what I mean? It's a very, I think people go through that all over the world with that.
I talked to, this is weird, I've lost a lot of people, but the two people I always talk to is my grandmother, Nana, and my brother, Ricky. My brother was shot. He was murdered by an employee. That came as, it was a huge shock to everybody. And anyway, and Nana lived a nice, full, happy life. Not always happy, but for a long, long time. And they're always together. Like, I always talk to them, they're always together, and that makes me feel good. Like, when you do go on, that you're not going to be alone.
Yeah.
And, so I don't know where I'm going with it, but
it's the communication. Do you think, as a death doula, do you help people when someone has gone unexpectedly, on that flip side? Because I think there's fear in that for a family. Like,
certainly is giving them, and that again, like, rituals are so rich as far as being able to help someone deal with some of the grief. And sometimes it's a matter of, if they haven't had an opportunity and the person has gone suddenly, then having the ritual of being able to say goodbye and have those moments where you light the candles and you have whatever, artifacts. Like, when my dad died, I asked my mom for the hat that he always wore when he was working on he would get this hat that he'd wear, and if he went to work on his truck, he'd put the hat on, and his fingers were always greasy, so the brim of the hat has kind of got his
fingerprints.
And for me, having that, being able to have that hat with the grease stains exactly as he used to wear it, for me, gave me a lot of comfort. And so for someone who has lost a person unexpectedly, it could be that they listen to this music all the time. And I know some people who have said, like, they when Rick's step grandmother died, and she was such a character, his cousin and I were at her place, and she used to smoke these horrible cigarettes, and she used to drink, it was like a martini. And so we went out on her patio with these horrible cigarettes and lit them up and had a drink. and then told Yvonne stories. Like she was this larger than life. And that was something that gave both of us comfort, because at the end of it, we were laughing. We were laughing about some of the things that she did. And she would do, when she was smoking, it would be like, well, darling.
Oh, that's funny.
And
That's
so we
so
were
cool.
mimicking her and
That's
taking
so
a drink
funny.
and going, how could she do, oh, this is gross. And the
That's
cigarettes were
Joan
gross. But
Crawford. That's Joan
yeah,
Crawford.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
totally Joan Crawford.
yeah,
Most
exactly. So have your
That's
own ritual.
funny.
It could be something like going for a walk in the woods. It could be
Mhm.
whatever brings you
Mm.
peace and closure, and talk to them.
Mm. See, I know that's it. The talking to him. Well, I talk, so there you go. But go
Yeah.
figure. But I was going to say what's interesting about the rituals that you talk about too is going back to the professional life, right? In
Yeah.
business, rituals help you get past the nerves, the fear. And I've done a lot of sales in my life, marketing, advertising. And I remember one day I really had I was like, I have these really big meetings, and it was a full day of meetings, a full day of travel, and the meetings were big. And I was like, okay, I'd like the suit on, and now no one will ever see me in a suit again. It's done, it's burned. But I'm in that outfit and had to get up early, but of course the night before I'm like, so I always turn to visualization as part of a ritual, and I would envision exactly what was going to happen and go through all the things that could go wrong, or and good, so I could handle them appropriately. And so driving does that for me. So that day, this is the craziest day. I got up real early. I had to drive through Joshua Tree National Park to get down to San Diego, where I was, and going to do all these meetings, and in different towns too. And so you're on the road and it's sunrise, and a car had veered off, and there's no cell coverage, and a car had veered off into the park, into the desert. And so I stopped, and it was a man, a woman, and a child.
Oh, wow.
And I said, oh, here. And I had water and peanuts and whatever, because that was like my way to eat, made sure they had that. And so we didn't have anything. So she stayed there with the kid, because it's on a main road still, so someone could come through. And I took him in the car to the ranger's office, which was down the other side of the park. And he gets in and he looks at me, he goes, you're putting a black man in your car. I said, yeah, it's okay. I said, just don't do anything to me, because if you do, I'll kill you. Well, I did. And
And eat
but
your
I took
feet.
him there, and I gave him everything I could to get them through, because it's a long day, especially with a kid, dropped him off at the ranger office, went on. And I was like, well, that's something you didn't get in your ritual. But I went right back to my ritual. I knew, like, okay, help is on the way for those people. It was the highest sales day I've ever had in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And things, catapulted. There was wrong, right. I mean, big fancy presentation kind of thing, all the way down to a small, like, little winery to it. I can't even tell you, like, that was the crazy, my cell phone stopped working, like all kinds of weird things happened, but I stuck to my visualization, and I was
Is that what you
okay. And
feel helped the success?
absolutely, because you get
Oh,
nervous, like
yeah.
I was one of those people you wouldn't believe. Like, I'd go to a business meeting, and everybody says who they are, what they do. Here's your 60 seconds of an elevator speech, and I'd be shaking in nerves, like totally. I mean, this is when I was way in my 20s, early 20s, and
So
I
just
mean,
a
I've
couple
been
of
doing
years
this
ago.
business since I was 17 for her, but so always having to be in the adult circle, and so you're always intimidated, and as a woman in some places too, and I'd get nervous. I'd start, so you just out of nerves, sheer stage fright. When we did music as a singer, I could sing my heart out. I could do, like, just wail. But if I had to speak to the audience, not happening.
Interesting.
Isn't
And I
that
didn't know
wild? But
that
it's
about you.
weird.
Like, I knew you were involved in the music, but I always, from what you had said, I always thought you were in behind the scenes, because you talked about being able to make sure all of the sound levels were right and make sure, like, you know, playing the instruments and things. I didn't know you sang too, like you're
Oh, no, she's a huge, really, really good blues singer.
Oh, thanks, Nancy.
cool.
No,
So
she
when
is.
do we
She
get
could
to hear that?
Yeah, Lisa.
I'll send you something. There's one terrible recording of me in the world, but I'll send it to you. But no, but that's that fear thing, and you have to work through it. And that's when you said the rituals. I was like, well, that really kind of works in all. You have to
Yeah, so
face
the
the
rituals
monster
or
internally.
visualization or whatever. Yeah, it's just another way, you know,
Yeah.
and then part of it is to help the person who is passing, because most people want to feel like they made a difference on this planet. So if I'm
Yes.
going to
Yeah.
leave,
Mm.
how did I make a difference? And it can be something like leaving a legacy for your kids. So I had one woman who said, well, it was like 40 VHS tapes of family pictures I've done, and I'd like to leave a video for my kids. And I said, okay, so how many minutes of recording is on each tape? And she said, oh, I think there's probably about 4 hours. And I said, okay, so you'd have to watch all 4 hours. And how many tapes are there? And there was like 50 tapes. I said, so 4 hours times 50 tapes is 200 hours. And it would take you. And so I just like sometimes the work that you're doing as a doula is helping people realize that what they want to do isn't maybe possible in a way that they can. And I said, so 200 hours. And now you would have to decide what every single thing, what you wanted out of those 200 hours and what goes where. I said,
Wow.
that sounds like something that would take years to do. Is there something else that you can do for each of them? And she said, I could put together a book of pictures. Okay, that we can do.
Yeah, that sounds
So
good.
whatever it is that you want to leave as a legacy project, I want, you know, for anyone who's listening to think of what kind of a legacy do you want to leave? And it could be that, you know, for some people, they say, well, I left my child a house. That's my legacy. Okay. If that works for you, that's great. For someone else, it might be a picture book. For someone else, it might be sending a letter, you know, and that's very popular, writing a personal letter to all of the people that you've loved. So there's so much involved. And you're right, you have to get over the fear for these people. You have to say, you still have control until you can no longer breathe. You are still here. You're still alive.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people I know that work
Interesting.
on their legacy, kind of past their retirement, like they still have their foot in their business, but then they're trying to leave a legacy. I mean, we were actually just having this conversation yesterday, Nancy and I, about, you know, some friends and what they're doing, and it's really admirable and it's selfless, but it's like, okay, we know it, you know, as we get to this certain age, you know, to start looking at that and
Right.
not wait until you're given, you know, 30 days. You know,
Yeah.
it's something to do. And honestly, that goes back to that intent in what you're doing in your professional world. See how we can balance professional work and death. It's quite interesting. And don't let work kill you. That's another thing. Just don't let it kill you either. But people do work on their legacy and what do they want their, I mean, honestly, if you're a business owner or management or, you know, what is or working for a company, are you proud of the people you're working for? And I think that's why we have a lot of walkouts. Are you, you know what I mean? Is your company doing something that's everlasting? You don't need to be a nonprofit to have a legacy. And we're seeing
and
this
you can
shift
do
change now with
you
business too.
can do things in the right way,
Mhm.
whether you're a nonprofit or not. You can do business in an admirable, honest way without cutting corners and shafting people, basically.
When people
You
pass
know?
on, you know, their professional life is a huge part of their legacy.
Yeah.
I wrote an obituary for a friend and he had done, I mean, this obituary got longer and longer and I'm like, holy crap, what am I going to do? You know, but he really had done so much. And it was to the point of putting press releases in newspapers around the world so people would know what he had done and that he had passed, as a notification, but to honor all of these people that he knew around the world. And so what you've done in your professional footstep does become part of your life legacy, I think.
So can I ask both of you, what is it that you want people to say about you?
That
What
we
Lisa
really
and
promoted
Nancy-
protecting land, to save the land. to
Like
stay-
you wanted about protecting the land.
And the
yeah,
animals.
habitat and the animals, yeah.
animals.
the
Okay.
wildlife.
That's why we do the tour.
Yeah.
I love your parks tour is all about documenting so
yeah.
that, and also so people can see what was there if it goes away.
And
Oh,
also no, so that it's left for the people coming beyond us, Like we're not supposed to come here and destroy everything and we're the be all end all
then
and
beam
too bad
off.
for the rest of you.
Yeah.
So
No,
stewards of
we're
the
su-
world, of the earth.
we're
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're supposed to leave it in a better condition than we found it. That's what our job is, in my mind.
Yeah.
In my mind. And that includes the wildlife and the plants and the air. And we don't need to extract every mineral we ever find so we can have another
Mhm.
piece of plastic that's floating in the ocean and clogging up somebody else's
Man, you got her
water
started.
source. Well, no,
Yeah.
seriously, we need to consciously look at what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a hike through Torres del Paine in Chile.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, it's 5 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago now. And I remember hiking up, and I'd love to go back and do it. But I stopped, and at one point I said, I need to fill my water bottle. Can you tell me where I fill it? And he pointed to the stream next to us and he said, just go to the stream and fill it up. The water was still so pure that I was able to
Nice.
go fill it and
That's
drink from
nice.
it. And I didn't get sick and I didn't carry any bugs home. And I remember being a little girl going out on a picnic with my aunt and uncle and all of my cousins and being able to go to the stream and fill up a pitcher, and we had Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
doesn't like Kool-Aid? But now where my aunt and uncle lived, we could never do that again. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that there are still places in the world that I can go fill up my water bottle and the water's pure. And I'd like to get back to the point where the stream that I could when I was a child and can't go to now is pure enough that my granddaughter will eventually be able to go back to that stream and take a drink of water.
And
Absolutely.
play in it. Animals can't play.
Yeah.
I mean, harmful algal blooms are in not just the ocean,
Mm.
and they're
Yeah.
in streams and rivers. And how many times do we go to places and see, don't drink the water, don't touch it. And then I'm going, but there's alligators in there dying now because of this. You know what I mean?
It's funny.
What
it's
about
funny
the fish? What about the animals? What about the
Yeah.
birds that think that they could land here? Next year they have to find a new
Yeah.
place. So to us,
But we're
that
the-
is a
We're
legacy.
the
Yeah,
ones with the
that's-
brains. We think animals are beneath us. Animals and plants are beneath us, but we're the ones who have the all-knowing. We have such big brains that we just messed everything up.
we can't
Yeah.
live without them, but they sure as hell can live without us. How about
And
that?
do a better job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and happier.
So what is
happier.
your legacy?
Interesting. I hope that what people say about me is that I help them find more kindness, grace, and trust in the world.
Mm,
That
That's
sounds
nice.
kind of.
I was going to say, I hope people say that she helped me die.
Oh,
Come on, we have to have
maybe
some
I'm not
humor.
hoping that people say, yeah,
No.
she helped me die, but I hope people
no.
say that I help them
Pass.
find grace in their final hours. That might be
Yeah,
something.
grace is good.
Mm.
Grace is something
Mhm.
to not lose sight of. And I think we've kind of lost that in this world lately. Over the last few years, all the drama, the political nastiness,
Mm.
the
Oh,
hatred,
gosh.
the anger, the absolute
Yeah.
2-year-old mentality that we have,
Oh,
and how we've
it's
started to
nuts.
treat each other. I think grace is, that is epic. We need that back.
Well, there's
There was something
honesty.
special.
Honesty is good.
Sorry, I'm just
Honesty.
laughing because just when you said that, and it was such a lovely sentiment. And then my dog usually sits next to me while I'm doing these interviews, and he just did a really loud burp. So I don't know if that came through on the
That's
mic.
very
Well,
very graceful,
like
but he's a
that.
boy dog. He's allowed.
Honest. Just
Oh,
honesty.
well, I think there's a lot of dignity in what you're doing, and I
Thank
think
you.
I think this is a good chat as always. We did
Yeah.
stick to fear, right? We did pretty good. We did
Yeah,
good.
yeah. We kept
we
coming
circled-
back to it. Yeah.
Yep, we circled around. So everyone, keep up with Lee. Again, she is here every third Thursday on Big Blend Radio. Keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Keep up with Lee and the trust work that she does. Go to thetrustarchitect.biz, get her books, and also go to souljourneydoula.com. So thank you so much, Lee.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'll see you when I get back.
All right.
Okay.